Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred, and I'm delighted to be joined by manager, trainer, and pretty much anything you can think to do with boxing. He's involved in some way. Jon Pegg. Jon, first and foremost, how are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Kind of just easing back into normality a little bit, doing some good running sessions, doing a few one-to-one things in the gym, getting some ideas of when people are going to get fighting. And it's looking like, restrictions are being eased. So perhaps we'll see smaller grassroots shows quicker than we thought. Well, trying to make the best out of what's going on, and not too bad.
Now, yourself and Sam were the two last people who I interviewed before we went into lockdown. And I remember speaking to you and you said, you could live with it. You could deal with being in lockdown, being at home, being safe for your family. You could work around that. How have you found lockdown up until now?
You know what, mate? I've found that I've got literally no boredom threshold. I thought that I'd be kind of getting bored out of my head. I've really just chilled, and I've kind of wanted to get on with things. As you think to yourself, well, the boxers are going to be, falling out of fitness, getting bad habits. But yeah, in the first month and a half, I left the house 3 times. I had no problem with it whatsoever. Enjoyed catching up with some reading. Put together a few training programs for when we're back. And you just realise quite how kind of antisocial you are when you don't miss not having any phone calls. Because obviously without boxing phone calls, I'm maybe getting 1 or maybe 2 a day. Whereas during the season, I'll probably have 10, not joking, 10 phone calls before 9 o'clock. So honestly not. And to be fair, it hasn't bothered Sam one bit. He's kind of enjoyed it. He's another one who he says he's just been quite happy at home with his family, doing his training in his garage, doing the stuff I send over to him. I'm not a social butterfly by any means, so I haven't missed going out. I haven't missed mixing because I don't really do it. I haven't missed the boxing because the boxing's not going on. So for me, there's nothing out there that I've missed really. So hasn't bothered me as much as it has a lot of people, to be honest.
With regards to a training aspects, what did you say to the guys, during lockdown as to how much they should be looking to push themselves, what they should be doing?
I told them to stay fit. It's no good staying sharp and fight ready because there ain't no fights. But I told them to keep their general fitness at a high level because there will be fights offered. And I actually put a message out to the lads and I says, you're always complaining that guys who are on full-time contracts get to train twice a day and you've got to come in from work tired and, stuff like that. I says, for once, you're on an even keel. I says, everyone's been furloughed. You can train as much as anybody else. You've got the energy to do it. Your sleep isn't being affected by getting up for work early and stuff like that. I says, to show me that the stuff you're always complaining about, you can take advantage of it. Some have, some haven't. So, so turn a negative into a positive where you can. It's not easy to do, but turn a negative into a positive. Most of the lads have to do full-time jobs for a period of time. They couldn't. And they can all do training. You can't spar, you can't do pads, but there's plenty of other stuff for boxers to do. So I told them, if you're really going to moan about that when we get back to normal, make sure you take advantage of it now. So, some have, some haven't.
Now we've seen, restrictions slightly being eased and we're kind of heading back to normality, as you said earlier on. What are kind of yourself and the team doing and the fighters with regards to gym work now?
Well, what we've started doing is some really tough running sessions with hills, sprints, exercise involved, all stuff that we could do outside and be comfortable with. Because obviously they says that gyms are an environment they're a little bit more. And we've just built the fitness back up because until you get some dates anyway, it's no good working on sparring and sharpness and technique that you can't just do with drills and shadowboxing. It's about building the engine. So when you're ready to go, you're starting much better than you usually start. And that's what we've done. Lots of running sessions. And then when we have done some stuff in the gym, it's been mainly really hard bag work, so we can still kind of distance a little bit. There's nothing up too close, but you can really work hard because, building the engine takes a lot longer than sharpening the tools. So if you're kind of doing your drills, but you're getting your engine built so you're ready to walk through walls, you won't need as much time to get your skills sharpened and your sparring switched on. Whereas if you're doing nothing, You can't just jump into sparring, whereas most of these lads, hopefully, will be able to jump into sparring literally straight away at a level they're not usually at. So that's what we've been working on, really building up a good engine, a good set of lungs. So when we can do the other stuff, we're more than ready to go.
Now, with that other stuff obviously being, you mentioned sparring, and now we're looking towards fight dates returning. One man in particular, Sam Eggington. There's been a lot of talk about a potential Cheeseman fight, particularly over social media. Just talk to me about that entire situation and how the first kind of initial contact came about.
Well, basically, Sam put out there, been training really hard. When the fights come up, I'm ready to go. Because he really has. He's probably better prepared to start a camp than he ever has been, because it's been really comfortable for him because it doesn't bother him. And literally straight away got a message off Eddie saying, seeing Sam's ready to go. There's a choice of opponents. Would you fancy any of them? And I just turned around, I looked at them and I says, well, Sam, he'll fancy any of them. I says, but I think him and Ted would be a cracker. I says, and if you're going to do this, it's got to be good fights. It's got to be fights that people go, oh, wow, I don't want to miss that. I says, I think that'll be just a great fight. I says, it's quite a fair fight. And fair play. And he got back to me and says, well, Ted seems interested. Would you be ready? And I said, yeah, of course. He put that message out there because he's ready, as ready as he needs to be with a few weeks to go or a month to go. And we've kind of been offered some details and we're like, yep, great. We're quite easy to deal with if it's the right one. And I think they're just doing the same thing with Ted. So I think they want to go in the second week of the fight camp that they're planning. And I think they want to top the bill with it because Sam's holds a title, obviously. And it is a great fight. I think there's not many people who wouldn't tune into this in normal circumstances. When you've been starved of boxing for 2 months, what's better than two guys who consider it an insult to duck a punch? You know what I mean? They're just going to go at it, aren't they? So, yeah, so that's where we're at. And Sam's weight's good. His fitness is very, very good. He just obviously hasn't done any sparring or pads. But that's the kind of stuff that you put in mid-camp to start sharpening anyway, once you're fit. So it's not like we're missing out on something that we should be doing. The sparring would be starting for August time in the next week or so anyway. So we're kind of sticking to what the board says. And hopefully, once these behind closed doors shows get nailed down, the board have obviously got to change it for people who've got fights coming up to be allowed to do some kind of sparring. So then we'll follow their guidelines because they're going to give us something that works. And we'll be happy to go with that. And to be fair, with Sam's experience now, we don't do massive amounts of sparring anyway. Not like when he started and when he was getting into it, he would do lots and lots of sparring. When you've had 34 fights, of which the majority have been 10 and 12 rounders, when you're at a certain level of fitness. Sam doesn't have to do 12 rounds to know in the gym to know he can do it. When he was early on doing it, he had to do the 12 rounds to build the confidence to know he could do it. Now he gets to 8 rounds and he'll know if he's at 12 round level. So we don't do as much sparring now anyway. We do what we need to do and enough. We don't overdo sparring anyway. So yeah, it's looking good. And Ted says he fancies it. We know Sam fancies it. Eddie wants to put it on. The audience are going to want to see it. I don't see anything stopping it happening, to be honest.
As you mentioned, they're both up for it. I interviewed Ted last week, and Ted said he was very keen on it if it can be confirmed and arranged. You mentioned though that they're both guys who don't like to duck a punch. I find it an insult to duck a punch, as you worded it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it as simple as, should we just expect two guys to go at it for as long as the fight was to last? Because Ted's mentioned that he's trying to work more so on his boxing technique and boxing a bit more than just getting stuck in a ruck, basically.
But you know what, Ted? I'm kind of joking there to build it up for the fans because Ted was an accomplished amateur who could really box. We know that because we had lads in national finals with him, and as he showed against Fitzgerald, he's got a bit of boxing. And people forget, Sam's showed a couple of boxing performances like Glenn Foots and even Shane Singleton, where he used his jab and set shots up. So they've both got boxing skills. You can't be a 12-round successful fighter without some boxing skills in, but they do both like a scrap. And they're both, once the red mist comes down, neither of them shies away from a scrap. So, of course, there's going to be boxing in there. And like I say, I'm saying it like that because we're building it up. And so, but if you think it's Ted Cheeseman and Sam Eggington having a fight, even though they've both shown boxing skills, nobody's first thought is going to be, this is going to be a lovely battle of jabs and exquisite defence, is it? You know, somewhere they're going to throw down. It's in their natures. And in 12 rounds, it's a long time. They're going to, and once one of them throws down, the other one's going to go with them. And then it'll be more of a fight that we're probably expecting. So, you know, the two lads who've got the natures in them to have a row, and they're good at having a row, they're going to start rowing at some point. And I think once they start, it'll be hard for either of them to go back to boxing. I think once they start scrapping. Sorry, mate, did you lose me then?
We did, but yeah, you can carry on. That's okay.
Sure. So someone tried to ring my phone. Yeah, once they start scrapping, I think it'll turn into a scrap. You know.
Who do you feel there's more pressure on going into their fight if it was to be confirmed for?
I think there's pressure on both of them because they've both had losses where they, you know, and you get told any more losses and you're kind of finished. I think Sam will feel the pressure less because he's had more losses and proved his points. Sam's been told, oh, if you have a fourth loss, you're done. He's had a fourth loss, come back and won titles when he's not meant to. So Sam's kind of like, you can tell me what you like. I know what I can do because I've done it. I've done it my own way. So there's probably a bit less pressure on Sam. And also, you know, he's had a few wins under his belt. So it's kind of, you feel a bit better about yourself. It's really hard going into a tough fight off a loss. And, you know, I feel for Ted because we've had to do it. But the one thing Ted has got to keep in his head is the guy he's fighting has done exactly what he's got to do now. So it's not impossible. You know, he's a good fighter. And it's so sad that people kind of encourage people to have tough fights. Yet when they have numerous tough fights and lose a couple, which by the law of averages you're going to, then they're kind of like, oh, you're finished now then. You know, it's these lads have got to keep battling on and proving that a few losses don't mean you're finished. It's all mentality. And Sam's shown he can do that. So I think pressure-wise, it's similar for both of them, but I think Sam's got more experience of dealing with it and coming out the other side. So he'll probably deal with it a little bit better, I think.
Sam and Ted, obviously two guys who are well supported, two guys who have that fan-friendly style. How do you think they're going to adapt, though, of being behind closed doors without having the fans there to kind of be able to push them that extra bit, try and give them an extra edge over the opponent?
I'll be honest, I'm not sure about Ted because I don't know him, but he's a professional, so I think he'll get on with it. Most boxers, it won't bother Sam at all, to be honest. It really won't. I mean, when we went to Italy, he had, I think, 16 or 17 people over there. When Sam was an amateur, he didn't have a following. When Sam turned pro, I had to put him on the road because he didn't have a following. When he got a following, it doesn't really make a difference to him. He's not that kind of person. You know, through the lockdown, he's been quite happy to stay in with his missus and kids. He doesn't feel the need to visit and be around his friends and stuff like that. He's not that kind. So I can't say the same for Ted, but Ted's a professional, so it won't bother him too much. But I don't think it'll bother lads as much as you think. Remember, in the amateurs, a lot of the times you'll be boxing at dinner shows where you're not allowed to shout during the bouts. You know, so people think it'll make a big difference. It won't. There is fights where the crowd has G'd someone in a really tough fight and a tough round, but that's quite rare, to be honest. You ask a boxer afterwards, and it's just white noise. Do you know what I mean? They very rarely can hear anything anyway. It's just white noise. So, you know, they're both professionals. They'll both get on with that. And I think most lads, I think newer lads might feel it. Newer lads who are new to the game and doing it for the buzz. But once you get to title level, you're kind of past being G'd on by the crowd, except for in very extreme circumstances. So I don't think it'll bother either of them, to be honest.
You mentioned a couple of answers ago when I asked you about the pressure that, you know, Sam's had a few losses, or he's had five losses now, 6 losses, and
Six.
He's come back, he's proven his point. So there may well be more pressure on Ted. But one thing that Sam's obviously always had is a brilliant relationship with Barry Hearn. Where do you think Sam's career would have played out if he didn't have that support?
What, from off Barry?
Yeah.
Sam would have took some really tough fights, and he'd have probably lost some, won some, because they would have been at the wrong time or a little bit too early, or without Barry's advice, which has been a learning curve for me as much as Sam. So I think Sam's got because Sam's actually gone into the away corner and won fights he's not meant to. So I think he would have done that anyway. but he also probably would have lost some fights that weren't at the right time or weren't the right opportunity, because we wouldn't have had any choice. Because, you know, we wouldn't have been in the place where we could take just a perfect fight for Sam at that time. It would have been like, right, you got to take it now, or you got to take this guy who's flying. And without Barry, that wouldn't have happened. So I think Sam would have still had big success, because he's had success in the away corner and he's pulled off fights he shouldn't have won. But he definitely would have been a much tougher journey, and there'd have been more losses. So he perhaps wouldn't have been able to take steps that he's took, because losses would have held him back. But, you know, so, and also without Barry's backing, I don't think he'd have got some sponsors. So he wouldn't have been able to become a full-time fighter. So perhaps them fights would have been that even bit more harder as well. So, you know, Barry's been a big as part of career as Sam as any. One, with the advice he's given. Two, with the opportunities. And three, just being like the kind of, he's one of the most optimistic people you'll ever met. You spend an hour in Barry's company and you feel like you can do almost anything. That's what he does. He kind of just, he's got this optimism that just oozes off him. And you know, and I think Sam has fed off that, because, you know, he's never like, you know, as an amateur, that he didn't have huge success. He was just kind of chipping away, doing what he could. And I think Barry gave him some kind of belief that you can do stuff. And I think he actually does now after a few years. So yeah, Barry's been a bigger part of her career as I have, as you know, as anybody has, to be honest.
Just moving away then from, obviously, you know, Sam and Matt Ted fight, and on to Shaq Pitters. I spoke to Shaq yesterday, and he said that he's been told to look for, you know, in and around August, that his bout will take place, that British title.
Middle August they're aiming for.
Can you just fill us in a bit more on all of that?
I think they're looking at that being a behind closed door shows as well on Channel 5. I think because the contract's in, they've contacted the board. They're still going to do the Chad Sugden fight, with the winner has to defend against Craig Richards straight away, which, you know. And Shaq's someone who has thrived in this environment. On the reservoir this morning, he done his fastest time ever. He'll actually beat like a gym record, and we got some good runners in our gym. So Shaq has really thrived in being a full-time pro and not letting it get him down. And we drilled it into him. His trainer, Paul Coonahan, really drilled into him about being professional, about not letting your head dip. And I've got to give it Shaq. He's really kind of stayed switched on. And Shaq's one of the few fighters I honestly think the gap is going to do him more good than harm. It would have been nice to get the fight beforehand, but I think he's going to be an even better fighter at the end of this lockdown. I really believe that, because of the way he's stayed on his game.
How far away do you feel somebody like Shaq is from going pro? Is it if he wins that British title, he can turn professional full-time then?
I think he's kind of literally on the cusp of it now. He's kind of got a couple of sponsors that have enabled him to go full-time for this fight. And if he wins that British title, I think he'll stay. The same as Sam did. Sam literally became a full-time pro when he fought Denton Vassell.
Yeah.
He beat Denton Vassell on Sky, got a couple of sponsors in, nothing major, but it enabled him to be a full-time pro. And it's been up and down with some of the losses, but Sam stayed full-time pro. And I think Shaq he is a full-time pro at the moment. And if he wins the fight, I think he'll stay one. And then I think you'll see him literally leaps and bounds, because people don't realise quite how physical Shaq's job was. He's lifting like tons of metal a day, every day, because that was his job, putting these roll bars on cars. And he says they worked it out before. And he was literally every day lifting tons of metal. And when you're being a pro fighter and you're doing that, you're not easy. So I think when he does his job and wins the British title, and the sponsors get involved, because he's got a really great kind of on-screen charisma that people are enjoying. And I think when the sponsors come on board, he becomes a full-time pro and gets the confidence of winning a 12-round title. He's won a 10. When he gets the confidence of winning a 12-round title, I think we're not going to know where he can go. It's going to be a surprise as much to us, because I think he's going to just open up and really show what he's capable of.
What do you make of the Chad Sugden fight? How exactly were you guys kind of preparing for it, and how are you expecting it to play out when the fight does take place?
It's a tough fight. Chad Sugden's a tough game kid, awkward. I don't think he's a proper light heavy. I think Chad Sugden would be a proper handful at super middle, like a real handful. I think at light heavy, he's not a proper light heavy. And Shaq being such a big light heavy, there was our advantage. I think Chad was going to struggle to get past Shaq's dimensions. And the way Shaq's confidence is soaring at the moment, I think, I just think Shaq had to turn up and be his best. And there's not many people in Britain who could live with him. If Shaq turns up not at his best, then he's giving the other guy a chance. I think if Shaq turns up 100% at his best, training hard, there's very few people domestically who can give him a hard fight, like a really hard fight. And that's up to him, because if he turns up at his best, then it's nothing to do with what they can do. He's in control. But yeah, you've got to be at your best to beat someone like Chad, someone who's willing to fight and take a fight and give it everything they've got and is quite fearless. You've got to be at your best to beat him. But I think after Shaq wins the British, I honestly think Chad will be a real force at super middle. I think he'll realise that the biggest light heavies is just a bit too big, and he'll go down to super middle and have the advantages there. And I think after Shaq wins the British, Chad will be a force down at super middle. I really believe he's got all the tools to be a real, a champion at super middle, basically.
I remember when you guys were initially negotiating to fight for a British title against Craig Richards, and you guys were getting frustrated over those talks and negotiations there. Say everything goes to plan, Shaq's successful against Chad. Is it the instant intention of fighting Craig and to kind of make good and to not make good, but to get one back over him for the frustrating feelings you guys had back then?
Well, do you know what? It's not really frustration. It's the game, and it's how it is. But the fact is, one, the board have ordered we got to fight him. Two, there's already been a purse bid won that's still kind of legal and outstanding. And three, it's a good fight for Shaq anyway. We're going to want to get notches on that Lonsdale belt. And why not fight the guy who's meant to fight, We just wanted to get on with it and fight. Whatever was going on, fair play. You got to do what you got to do. If you want to, now we got our chance. There's no ill feeling. You're doing what you're doing. We got to do what we got to do. But because Richard was slightly in front of the queue of us, it was holding us up. So we're like, we just want to get on with it. So as soon as we've won that British title, we'll make the defence as soon as possible. There's a purse bid that's still legally bound. The board have ordered we got to fight him, and he deserves his chance. It's just that once we've got the belt, at least we can't be held up if something comes up. If he gets a bigger fight or if he gets a better offer, we don't have to be held up by him. If he wants to fight for it, great. If he doesn't, we've kind of the ball's in our court. We can do our own thing if he doesn't, or if he wants to hold us up. So, it's only fair he gets his chance once we've won it. And it's legal as well. So, no, it's if you're going to be British champ, you've got to be prepared to fight British guys and make defences. So, we'll be looking forward to getting a title defence as soon as possible. We want to get 3 of them. We want that belt won outright. We've never done that at the gym yet. That's another ambition for the gym.
John, final thing I wanted to ask you about was something I asked you about off camera. Obviously, yourself and Tommy Owens working on putting a show on at Villa Park on the pitch.
Yep.
What happened with all of that in the end? Obviously, I know lockdown's changed things since, but where did you get just before lockdown?
Right, we got to the stage where it was literally kind of agreed with the people we'd been meeting with, and everyone was got their eyes on the game, and we was planning who was on it. We'd contacted the board and then when it went to the upper echelon of kind of, I don't know if it's boardroom or whatever at Villa Park, they suddenly came back with a whole different kind of set of rules. And I, like they wanted roads shut down, and they wanted a big police presence and insurance and like professional people in after the game. And I honestly think the people who hadn't been in the negotiations literally typed in boxing at football grounds and found out, like AJ having 90,000 at Wembley and Carl Froch and stuff like that. And I think they just thought, oh, that's what it is. But the people we'd had the negotiations with, they understood we was doing a bigger show than usual, a little bit more grand, but nothing major. And they was really happy. But I think then they got kind of overruled by the top brass saying, hold on, we've looked at boxing in football grounds. There's going to be 90,000 people here. We've got to shut the roads. We've got to get police. And so we would have had to have another month or two of meetings with them just to get it past where we got it before, and time was running out. But, by the time we'd have either got them to agree to it, we'd have been rushing to get it done, or if they'd have disagreed to it, we're kind of thrown away the rest of the season, which ended up getting thrown away anyway because of COVID. But yeah, so it kind of like hit a stumbling block. So we just says, right, let's aim for next year, because we're not going to rush it at this stage. We know what the plan is. The people who we spoke to initially, the first two layers, knew what the plan was. Just I think the upper echelon was kind of like, oh, hold on, we've got to do this. So it threw a spanner in the works. So all the meetings we went through for the last 6 and 8 months, I think we've got to start them again at the end of this year, but at the highest level, and kind of explain, this is what we're doing, this is the numbers, this is where we're going to. It's not going to be 48,000, every seat's full. It's not going to be this, it's not going to be that. And then see if we can move forward from there, because we've got a great relationship with them. We've done so many shows there. I think it was just a kind of miscommunication, because you've got to think, if you're not a boxing person through and through, or even remotely interested, but you're in charge of a certain level, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to type it into the internet. And if you type football stadiums boxing, what's going to come up? AJ with 90,000. And I think that's what happened. And I think they was like, whoa, we can't do this. We have to do this, we have to do that. And it was just too long to explain. You have to have a meeting to get the meeting to explain the meeting. Do you know what I mean? There's too many hoops to jump through. So we says, right, we've got all our plans ready. We've got the ideas ready. We've got all the permissions ready. Let's start again for next year, not rush it this year and fuck it up. And let's do it properly next year and get it done properly. So that's where we're at, basically, mate.
Well, John, hopefully that does come off next year, but we will leave that.
Yeah, I hope so.
Now. Before I let you go, though, John, what would you like to say to everyone who does tune in to watch our interview?
Do you know what? Keep watching the interviews, because it's the only boxing stuff you're getting at the moment. And when we do come through this, please, and I know it's tricky with social distancing and people worrying about stuff, but please support your boxers more than ever. Because I genuinely believe we're going to lose some boxers during this lockdown. People who just fall out of love with it, people who can't afford the medicals. And it's going to be hard to get ticket sales and help them out. So support your local boxers, your grassroots guys. The big shows, they're doing good anyway. They've got TV. Support them local boxers, because they're really going to need it. And that includes watching these interviews and commenting and getting a buzz going. So just support the guys who are going to be looking to get their careers back on track after this.
John, it's been a pleasure to catch up with you. I hope yourself and your family stay safe, and I'll hopefully see you in person soon to do an interview. We'll keep in touch, but thank you for speaking to Boxing Social.
Andy, thank you as always, mate. Always good talking to you. Have a good time.